Well, I gotta say, these last 100 days, and quite honestly, the last 6 months since the election, have not always been a super fun time to be a Democrat working in politics. But every once in a while, there's like a bright spot or an exciting breakthrough that we have or a big opportunity. And it really just kind of fuels me for like the next barrage of shit we're inevitably going to deal with. And today is one of those big bright spots for all of us here at Demfluenced. Our guest basically pioneered Demfluencing. He is an OG new media political journalist. He's a podcast host, a #1 New York Times bestselling author, an MSNBC contributor. He's also the founder of the creator-led collective Chorus Media, and he has over 7 million followers across platforms and boasts more than 3 billion views on YouTube. And in the first quarter of this year, he grew faster than that asswipe Joe Rogan. Guys, I seriously practiced this next part in front of a mirror because I can't believe I'm saying it. Brian Tyler Cohen, welcome to Demfluenced.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. And
We're
thanks for the
freaking
kind
out.
words. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
we're like, it's crazy that we're talking to you right
I
now.
always try to balance like fangirling and also being like, I'm totally worthy of this opportunity. I'm airing.
You are worthy of this opportunity. Let's go. You got
fangirl
this.
right now. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with
Of
us.
course. Of course. Happy to be here.
So we see that you're out in the outside world. That seems really good in this day and age.
I felt like touching grass might be a good good change of pace here.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's like not enough grass to touch these days. I feel like I'm like need more. And
We're running
more.
out if we're wearing it down.
But Brian, so many of your followers for a really long time, you've been this constant presence for them throughout the first Trump presidency. And obviously you've skyrocketed like to the moon basically. And I just was wondering if you could give us a little bit on like those early days. What did doing this look like when you were just starting out, and kind of take us through your journey a little bit?
Yeah, so I started out right in the beginning of the Trump era, and I was writing articles on Facebook because that was where everybody got their news, and just doing like short form articles and whatnot. And started noticing on Facebook that I was getting served a lot of right-wing video content for which there was no response by anyone on the left. And I was also living out in Los Angeles, so I was dabbling in the entertainment industry. My first job, ironically enough, was at Fox, the
Oh.
TV side. Not I did not work at Fox News, but it is weird that my first real job in the real world was at Fox. But I started noticing that I was getting served a lot of video content from right wingers. There was nothing that we had on the left. I had some experience in front of the camera, so I just started putting myself on camera, responding to things that were happening on Facebook, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? There's also YouTube." And YouTube was not the destination for politics by any means. It was just Facebook back then. I feel like I'm saying this like with the same I feel like it's the same thing as me saying like, "Oh, you should have seen MySpace." And MySpace was like the coolest thing. Everybody used
Wild.
it. Um, but so I threw my videos on Facebook. I also threw them onto YouTube, and just kind of spent the next couple of years with my head down, doing the work, posting every single day consistently. And the audience grew, but I think half of it was because I tried to make it entertaining, but the other half was just there was a massive void, a dearth in left of center political content, and the fact that I was somebody who was in that space, I think was a big testament to the fact that people who were looking for something to watch actually found it.
Yeah, so I want to get more into kind of talking about the building of the new media ecosystem, but let's first just get some like general Trump bitching out of the way. We are big fans of your book, Shameless. We have it right here on our coffee table. And a central theme in it is that Republicans do this thing that you call strategic dysfunction. And now this book came out last August. It's as if you are an oracle when you look at things like Signalgate and deporting Kelmar Obrego Garcia because of an administrative error, the whole tariff rollout. Like, is this strategic or is this just dysfunction?
It's a great question, and I don't know that they necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. I don't think that this administration set out to engage in Signalgate, right? In a scandal wherein cabinet officials were just inadvertently adding journalists, left-wing journalists, into their war planning group chats. So, and the same goes for, the rest of these policies that have kind of come back to bite them in the face. But I don't think that it necessarily hurts. I think that anything where they can continue flooding the zone and throwing shit against the wall, I think ultimately redounds to their advantage, because their goal here is to show that government can't work, that we need to find any excuse necessary to break down different agencies, different departments. And so if they can show whether by virtue of their own inadvertent dysfunction or their purposeful dysfunction, that certain institutions, certain government agencies, certain departments are not going to work, then I think that ultimately that redounds to their benefit, because their goal is to just defund or break down government anyway. I mean, we've seen that from Doge. They're just looking to take funding away from certain departments, take it away from USAID, disband the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And so anything they can do here just to show whether it redounds to their benefit or not, that government can't work, that it is all steeped in dysfunction, I think ultimately helps their bottom line, which is to prove to people that government can't work, that we have to privatize it, shrink it down, and the only party willing to do that is the Republican. So it's this weird thing where they can actually break something and derive some benefit by virtue of breaking it, because it really lends itself to their central thesis, which is that government can't work. And you shouldn't elect the people who think that it has a chance of working, because they're just going to invest more time and energy and resources and money into this government, which we all know can't work. And so they do have the easier job here, because if your job is just to make sure that something is broken, that's it's not the hardest thing in the world. But if your job is to make sure that something works, it is objectively more difficult to do.
Yeah, they break it and they go, look, it's broken.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know which one of us could like sign up for a job like that and think that that's too hard, but alas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really hard position to be the one defending institutions and their worthiness, because
Yeah.
people don't actually realize how much these institutions play an impact in their everyday lives
That's right.
until they're gone. And as those institutions start dwindling down is when hopefully people's eyes open up, but I don't know if we can be sure about that.
Well, in the
Which, by
meantime,
the
it's
way, is
our
not to say that we have to blindly follow every institution. That if somebody attacks, like every single government agency, that we have to be there, pointing to this big building in the background, saying we have to protect this thing. Because the reality is that a lot of people have very little faith in government right now, anyway. And so, if you're the party that's defending institutions that they inherently don't believe are working for them, they're going to move away from you. So I think we have to be strategic about the fights that we pick here. And and look, I mean, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, I think, is a good example of this, because that agency exists solely to protect defrauded consumers from predatory financial institutions. It's returned $21 billion to 205 million consumers. I think that's a pretty good example of good government. And you can find a ton of examples from people who've said, like, this works for me. I wouldn't have been able to get this refund from my bank. I wouldn't have been able to get this money back from these illegitimate overdraft fees, whatever it may be. There's just example after example, because the whole reason for being is to help people who've been defrauded.
very, very, very good example. And, it's kind of our job right now to communicate those things.
Yeah. In the like barrage of things to communicate.
Yeah.
That's one of the many things that we need to communicate. But Brian, one of our things that we talk about a lot on the show is that if we had actually invested in building this like robust new media infrastructure in the years leading up to November, that we would have had a better chance of winning. And Media Matters estimated that if we put in merely 50 million on influencers of the 6 billion spent in the election, that would have made a difference. Rather, 6 billion spent on TV ads in the election.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
I do agree, with the broader picture, that had we invested, I don't know that it would have been a one election cycle type deal. We had 100 days with Kamala Harris, and so of course they raised billions of dollars. Very little of it went to influencers. A hell of a lot more went to like the sphere. So like I'm not sure exactly where the money went. We'll find out in some autopsy, I'm sure, down the line. But look, more broadly, I think that Republican strategy of investing in independent media and right-wing creators and influencers a decade ago has borne fruit in a way that I don't think we're able to quantify right now. I mean, there's no ignoring the impact that somebody like Ben Shapiro, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Matt Walsh, Alex Jones, Daily Wire. I mean, all of those people have had on right-wing media, on the right-wing media ecosystem, on pushing narratives that they want to push through. They have the size and the scope, and it's because they've invested so much time, money, and resources into building up this partisan media infrastructure. And 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 that's not just helped them in terms of just those voices getting out there. But when you think about the asymmetry at play, where we have, legacy media, we have ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and those are our message distribution systems. Of course, there's going to be an asymmetry because the legacy media will bend over backwards to try and prove that it's not liberal, and so they'll take their cues oftentimes from their right wing assignment editors, which is why we're left with like 69 cover stories about Hillary Clinton's emails. And so that asymmetry has been working against us for the better part of a decade now. Had we invested some of this time, energy, money into building up our content creators, building up our influencers, building up our independent media outlets, I think we would be in a much different space right now. Because, I mean, I would ask you guys, what was the number one issue that this past election cycle became a referendum on? Not by through no fault of our own. What were the most people talking about?
Well, it should have been the economy, but I believe
It was
most people are talking about
transgender.
Correct.
bathrooms and immigrants.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things that you just mentioned was like the trans issue, right? And
Yeah.
that's because they put nearly $250 million into those efforts. And that's the benefit for them of being able to look at these massive right wing media machines that they've built up, and they can do that because A, they're putting the money in, and B, they have the voices to be able to send a coordinated message out into the political zeitgeist. And so, knowing that they have that huge advantage, they can do that with whatever issue they want moving forward. And it's not like the gender reassignment surgeries in sports was some major present issue in this campaign by virtue of what Kamala Harris said. It was some position that she took in 2019, but they've decided that they wanted this election to be a referendum on that. And so they were able to do that because how can we push back against the
Right.
machine that they've built up? And so it's scary because moving forward, there is a world in which they can just decide any election is a referendum on any issue they want. Of course,
Right.
they'll make it, an issue that reflects well off of them and doesn't reflect well off of Democrats. But that's the danger that we face in not trying to achieve parity with what they're doing.
We're letting them set the agenda because they have the trusted messengers in place.
Right.
And so as we dive into that with TV ads versus trusted messengers, and we think about the $6 billion that they spent on TV ads, we have a chart that shows the average daily viewers for social media sites versus cable news. We're going to pop it up. It's our A graphic. And it's so sad. Like when you see these giant viewership numbers and you have to like do a double take at the chart because the little dots, you almost can't even see them, that represent Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN. They dwarf the social media stats, just like dwarf them in comparison. So why do you think that PACs and campaigns continue to invest in a medium that no one is watching?
I think a lot of the people who are in charge of delegating or allocating money, they've been there for a long time, and I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of how people get their news right now, and that not only on online do people are you reaching more people, just period, but you're reaching more persuadable folks. I think you just have people in the space it's the same party it's the same issue that the Democratic Party more broadly is contending with, which is that there are folks in power who are of a certain generation who've been doing things the same way for a really long time,
Yes.
and it's hard to move people. Stasis is a powerful drug, right? And so and so I think that they say, okay, well, I've won elections doing it this way for X amount of years, and so I'm just going to keep doing that because I know that this is what works. When in reality, things are shifting so quickly. I mean, the book I wrote last year was pushing for Democrats to embrace independent media because of the sheer amount of people who are actually getting their news there. But I think it's just a question of getting people into positions of power where they can actually allocate funding, where it's most necessary and where people are actually consuming content these days. And until we do that, we're gonna continue focusing on, I think, failed tactics. The benefit of losing, the silver lining, I should say, of losing so spectacularly in this past election cycle is that it did shake a lot of people out of this old school frame of
Yes.
thinking where okay, everything that we've been doing is perfect. Just keep the status quo and don't change anything. We always win the popular vote. We always manage to like eke our way through these elections. Donald Trump was a fluke. It was an anomaly, and we'll just keep on the path forward. But I think people are recognizing now, losing the popular vote, losing the House, losing the Senate, losing the White House, and doing it again with Donald Trump, that we can't just chalk it up to a fluke, that we have to fundamentally change the way that we're communicating with people.
Well, we are here to do that. We are here to break the Democratic consultant industrial TV complex. And all of us in different ways on this podcast today are working very hard to try to change things and break the status quo. They've been doing it on the right very well, as we outlined, for a very long time.
Well,
So
and sorry, they've
yeah.
been doing it out of necessity on the right. Like, this is something that when Trump took office or was even campaigning, the traditional media, Fox, NBC, or not Fox, sorry, NBC, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, they just like were ripping on Trump the entire time, and they needed to have a place to go and talk to their audience. They felt like they were getting completely shut out by traditional media.
Yeah.
And so now it's like the tables have turned a little, where we haven't gotten shut out by traditional media, but people just don't trust it anymore. And so we're forced into this like way of making our own voices heard.
Right, and that's what they did. They really embraced that new media. They knew that they weren't going to have a place in legacy media, so they really embraced the creators and the talent in new media. And we saw that this week with Caroline Leavitt when she hosted the first influencer briefing at the White House. And something I found interesting about that was the Huffington Post covered it, and they referred to it as the kids table. And I know that like these creators themselves, they're not serious people. Where there was that weird guy that looked like Draco Malfoy. His name, by the way, is Link Lauren. That's his
I've never seen
real
him
name.
before.
And the other one that made a comment about my Uber driver speaking. I mean, these people are assholes. Like, agreed, they are not serious journalists. But calling it the kids table made me feel like, does legacy media, do they purposely devalue creators because they know you're breathing down their necks?
I think that there's a sense of existential dread when it comes to like how legacy media perceives content creators. There's often a hostile posture that I've even seen in my own personal or professional dealings with legacy media. And I kind of understand. And look, I think the way that I approach this is I there's a part of me that does feel a degree of sympathy for these folks who many of whom are just doing good work, trying to do their thing, and who recognize that the really sad state of our media. I wish that it wasn't. I wish that we didn't have to be in a world where people relied on like influencers on TikTok to get their news. That news wasn't so. That trust wasn't so in short supply
Right. Yeah.
when it comes to legacy media. And I know that there are a lot of reporters and a lot of journalists who are doing amazing work and whose work I rely on myself to be able to do what I do. And so my beef isn't so much with the journalists themselves, although I think that, as far as the HuffPost calling influencers the kids table, they do that at their own peril, because the kids table very quickly, if not already, is bigger than the adult table. So that kind of posture, I think is gonna really silly in a year or so. But more broadly, I don't like to take like too hostile of a posture toward legacy media, because it's the changing attitudes of the whole ecosystem that are kind of thrusting themselves into this position. My beef mostly is with the Democrats who have spent so long keeping all of their time, attention, resources, and validation onto legacy media, when it becomes so clear that so many people are getting their news from independent media outlets and content creators. But Democrats largely just ignored these people. I mean, even myself, and I don't really blame the Harris campaign because they had 100 days, and so this wasn't a normal election cycle. But I didn't have any time to speak with her during the campaign. I'm sure just about all of our influencers didn't have any time to speak with her during the campaign,
Yep.
and that was an opportunity to validate a lot of content creators who are doing the work 364 other days of the year to be able to advocate for this Democratic Party. And if we're not going to prop up, bolster, and support independent media when everybody's watching during a presidential election, then we can't be surprised if for the rest of the year, when we haven't heaped any validation onto these folks, that they're not that they're not able to grow as big as those on the right are. The reality is that anybody who had like $25 who could buy a microphone got time with Donald Trump. He
Yeah.
helped build up so many folks in the independent media space. And in turn, that did two things. It validated them in the eyes of their audience. So all of a sudden you have these content creators who, on Monday might have just seemed like a couple of kids with a microphone, but on Tuesday they've sat down with, the former and next president of the United States. That's a pretty validating moment for them. But second of all, think about the return on investment. These people are going to become evangelists for Donald Trump because he was the one who legitimized them in the eyes of their audience. And so, of course, they're going to spend every day going out there and heaping praise on him and becoming emissaries for his message. That's a great return on investment. You give 10 minutes to a content creator, and all of a sudden they become missionaries for you for the rest of time. And yet, Democrats we never did that. And so, my beef, really is with the Democratic establishment, a Democratic caucus that didn't think it was ever worth it to build up this content creator class, even as more people were getting their news from content creators, even as more persuadable voters were getting their news from content creators, and even as the right was seeing so much success by virtue of doing it on their side. Still, we just decided that, like, oh well, as long as I do my hit on MSNBC, then I can talk to the American people. And those numbers were shrinking more and more. And I say this as somebody who was a contributor at MSNBC for the last 18 months. I've since left MSNBC, but worked there for well over a year. And when that becomes our sole method of communication, then it's no wonder that we've been falling behind all of this time.
Completely. And I'm worried that we are starting to make strides, but not big enough strides. So in the race leading up to the chair election, you interviewed Ken Martin, which was great that he, saw the value in sitting down with, somebody who has 7 million eyeballs on them. It was the first time I heard somebody in leadership say things like broadcast TV is not where it's at anymore, and we need a paradigm shift. He said the right is paying micro-influencers and has been for years. He talked about how in August, the Harris campaign was celebrating our 4-to-1 advantage over Trump in ad buys, but that the other side didn't need to buy ads because they were paying influencers. So this past week, I was on a call with Tim Hogan, who's running the DNC's new media communications. They were rolling out this war room, a daily huddle, and influencer relations, and that is all wonderful. But I raised my hand and asked, are we paying influencers like they are? And I got a big no, not, we do not currently have plans. So like, what the fuck? How are we going to compete? This to me feels like they're announcing we're opening a restaurant, but we're not going to pay a chef. We're just hoping someone will show up and cook the meal. Like, how is this going to work?
Well, look, I think more is more, right? And so if they're doing a more creator focused program at the DNC, I'm all for it. But we do need an all of the above strategy. We know that the right has been paying their influencers, paying content creators, and building up these incubator programs for right wing content creators for the better part of a decade. And so that's what we're doing at Chorus. It's an incubator program for new content creators. I know other groups are seeing the value in this space of bringing in content creators, but the reality is that we need to flood the zone. We need more voices on the left. We need to achieve parity. And if anybody who's listening to this wants to start creating content, I started creating content by just putting it onto Facebook. I had no idea what I was doing. My camera was blurry. I had no sound equipment. I had a suit that was too big for me. Like, I just did it. Just get out there. And I'm so neurotic and type A and such a perfectionist that there is a world in which I could have said, okay, I'm not going to do this until I have the perfect gear and the perfect sound equipment, the perfect mics, and then the perfect lighting and the perfect background and the perfect clothes for it and the perfect script. But you can wait until it's perfect to the point where you've given up your ability to even do it. So do not let perfect be the enemy of good. Just start creating content, get out there, and that's that's the way that we achieve parity with what they're doing on the right. But to your exact point, going back to your first question, I mean, we do need to make sure that we are operating in this space, not just waiting for the goodwill of people to get out on their phones and create content. Because inevitably, I mean, look, I'm a 36-year-old straight white guy. If you can imagine what my algorithm looks like when I'm scrolling on YouTube Shorts or TikTok or Instagram. I mean, that was a big wake up call for me, for for like the algorithm to break through what my normal viewing habits are and constantly show me right wing content, constantly show me Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan clips, constantly show me that kind of stuff. Goes to show that there is just a major disparity in in the content that's actually being created. And so we need to just flood the zone in very much the same way that they're doing on the right.
Yeah, I think also when we talk to people that are kind of like teetering on the scale of being content creators or not, or even talking to donors and trying to explain, or people in the Democratic establishment, like micro influencers to
Yeah.
them, we keep getting this like pushback that these influencers are unvetted and non-fact checked voices.
Yeah.
And on both ends of that spectrum, whether they're scared to create content because they don't want to speak out of turn, or donors don't want to fund them because they don't want them to say something wrong. I mean, mistakes are going to happen, right? Like, that's just something that's
Totally.
going to happen in this world, and we need to let people make mistakes because everyone has an attention span of a goldfish, so people will forget it by the next video that you post. But what are some of your like pillars of responsible content creation, and how can we make sure that we're using these influencers and able to also give donors like the comfort that, you know, it's all in goodwill, right? It's where people are getting in good trouble and they're giving legitimate information out as much as they can.
Yeah, it's a great question, and something that I've contended with as I've spoken to more and more people who are worried. Okay, well, but what are if we're gonna fund these efforts, what are these? Who's here to make sure that what they're saying is okay? And I think to your exact point, to make sure that there's at least an understanding that these folks are operating in good faith. And once you recognize that, then look, people are going to make mistakes. Legacy media makes mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that even if you say something that that could have been considered political suicide 5 years ago, the news cycle is 5 minutes long right now. And this is
Right.
something that I've been pushing elected officials to do too, is not to worry about being so perfect, safe, uncontroversial, because that's going to have two downsides. The first is going to be that you're never going to break through in this media environment. Like, think about what you have to say to actually be at the top of the news cycle in the Trump
So
2.0
scary.
era.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Like, you are just gonna it's you are just never gonna break through if you're doing the same rote political talking points. But the second is that we are in an era of authenticity, and people want to feel like their elected officials are normal human beings and not just rote politicians speaking from the old school political playbook. And so if you're going to speak in a way that is so safe and uncontroversial, not only is that not a positive because you're not breaking through, it's actually, in my opinion, a net negative, because you need to show people that you have some humanity, that you have some charisma if you want to break through in this political environment. And if you're just doing the regular, oh, here's my press release in response to this thing, and it feels like it was written in 1995, then you are not that person for this moment.
Yes.
And we know, like, we've seen what works in this moment. We've seen how successful people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and Chris Murphy are by virtue of taking a different tack, by operating from a different playbook and saying what they need to say to actually break through here. And the people who are not doing that because they're so worried that there might be blowback if they say anything 1 inch left of center are actually just proving the point that, like, that they're just not meeting the moment with the urgency that it deserves, and not meeting the moment by virtue of saying what they need to say to break through in this media environment.
Yep.
Completely. It's so true. And I also think when we think about the demographic that we are going after, that we lost the most ground with, which is young men, they're inherently attracted to individuals that are more risk takers, more
Right.
brash, bold individuals. Like they
Yeah.
like Donald Trump because they perceive him as somebody who doesn't give a fuck. And that
Right.
doesn't give a fuck attitude is really cool and really attractive when you're an 18-year-old boy. Like, but a measured, scared, more reserved attitude, that is not who they feel is like the fighter and a person to lead and to meet the moment.
Right, and by the way, it's not just among, 20-year-old guys. I mean, like, I'm double that age, and, like, it's good for me too. Look, I've been a Democrat for my whole life and have watched a party that is so steeped in weakness try to take on the Republican Party that's been led by people like Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump, people who can just figure out how to win. And if it means they have to go around rules that Democrats will treat as, as sacrosanct, then they'll do it. And it's really frustrating for somebody like me, and I'm sure for people like you to watch this happen and to see it, not just watch it happen in the first place, but to see it continue happening even after we recognize who the Republicans are. And so, look, I want to see the same thing. My litmus test right now, when I look at elected officials who are running in 26 and 28, is not, are you progressive or are you moderate? It's, are you willing to fight? We can have people who have disagreements in terms of whether you want to see Medicare for all implemented. We can have people who see disagreements in terms of whether the minimum wage should be, $15 or $30. I'm much less interested in that. I'm much more interested in whether you're going to be somebody who's going to go to the mat for what you believe in, or if you're going to say, oh well, look, there's this very small bump in the road, and I couldn't possibly do anything to overcome it. And so, what else can we do?
Completely.
Yeah.
And if you have a little bit more time to give us, we would love to hear more about Chorus. What's the mission? What are your goals? And, how have you dealt with some of the challenges you've come up against so far?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, Chorus, as I mentioned before, is our incubator program. It's our effort to really flood the zone with as many content creators as we can. We're looking to incubate 1,000 content creators between now and the next election. And by the way, I hope that we're not the only group doing it. I hope that we see lots of organizations, lots of groups fund content creators, bring in new content creators, teach them how to be effective from people who've had success in this space in the past, and just flood the zone with pro-democracy voices on the left, in both politics and in culture, because you have people who are going to just bump into this stuff because they're interested in comedy or health and wellness or DIY or whatever it may be. So that's our effort. We're working on it now. Obviously, you know our big focus has to be to make sure that we have all of the legal aspects of it buttoned up, because we're in the middle of a very litigious Trump administration. So that's been a big focus, I think bigger than I had anticipated. Um, but then I think also the main thing that I would like to see is there is a scarcity mentality among Democratic groups, and I think that that's been a little difficult. That groups think that if you have one organization that's raising money or building up their creators, that means that it's less money for other groups. And I think we have to eliminate this scarcity mindset and
Yes.
recognize that more is more.
Yes.
That a rising tide lifts all ships in this space, and that this is the way to win. I want to see every single group succeed. I want to see every single group raise money. I want to see every single group put out more content creators. And among a lot of people, there's this mindset that, like, it's zero sum. And if you have one group that's successful, it suddenly means that their own group or another group won't be successful. So, I, if you look at the ways where the right has succeeded, it is by helping other groups in their space, by elevating other content creators in their space, by helping other media outlets. There's so much collaboration, and the extent to which it is existential for us to replicate that strategy, that mindset, cannot be overstated. We have to understand that building up these groups across the entire left of center media ecosystem is essential for our survival. And so I do hope that we can relinquish that scarcity mindset and recognize that more is more, and a rising tide does lift all ships.
1,000%. My
We
God.
say that all the
say that
time.
all the time, especially when people kind of ask us to like map out the different groups and map out what people are doing. First of all, we are building an industry, and in an industry, there are like, if you look at like true industrial work, right? One of our previous guests, the DNC treasurer, Virginia McGregor, her family, they are a steel company. They make stairs for a building. So that is one company that makes one thing. They only do stairs. They have one place where they get their steel, one place where somebody cuts the steel, one place where somebody manufactures the steel. Like there can be multiple people. So yes, we are all interested in growing a new media ecosystem. But you be the steel cutter and we'll be the steel assembly. You know, like there
That's
is a
it.
place
Exactly.
for everyone. There's a niche for everyone. That's what an industry is. That's what an ecosystem is. And we all will work together, and this will take shape, and people will realize that they carve out their niche, and it is not a zero-sum game. I sometimes feel this with influencers themselves, that they think that the more people in this space means the less there is for them. Like, we're trying to help you, bro. We're trying to grow
Right.
this for you. Like, how's it been going doing it alone? Not so
Right.
great. So let people who have a certain expertise, and whether that be fundraising, agency, new media consulting, let those people fly and carve out that niche, and they will make this bigger and better for everyone. And then we will achieve our ultimate goal, which is parity and bigger and better than them. Because by the way, we're chasing after them. They're not stagnant. That influencer
Correct.
briefing at the White House, that shows they're keeping going. They are growing.
They're doubling down.
They're doubling down. And if you are like a random college student who has like a little bit of talent and riz on camera, what are you doing? You're looking, you're going, whoa, somebody who's 22 is sitting in a White House press briefing. Yeah, I'm going to
Totally.
keep making my silly little videos. Yeah, I'm going to keep spreading my like hateful bullshit on my University of Alabama campus. Like, we need to show people that there is money in this, that there's access in this, that there is a community in this. Like, come on in. More people, whatever you can bring to the party.
And by the way, like all of their success is by pushing an agenda that is overwhelmingly unpopular. If you look at all of the issues, if you look at climate change, if you look at healthcare, if you look at abortion rights, if you look at unions, if you look at living wage, whatever it may be, Democrats are on the right side of this issue. So the fact that Republicans have been able to have so much success when their actual agenda is predicated on like attacking 10 trans people in the NCAA and otherwise denying the existence of climate change, that should give us all of the motivation that we need. Like if they've been that successful just because they've invested in it with an agenda and a platform that looks like theirs, imagine what we can do with a platform that is actually overwhelmingly popular with the American people.
Right. It's
That's it. That's like the perfect clip it.
you know, we can like see it, you know, in lights.
Yeah.
It actually working.
I always say we have the talent. Like they may have been at this faster and they may have won this last battle, but like we have the talent, we have the tenacity, we have the truth. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, is like we have the popular policy points. We have the better platform. We just need a more effective way to communicate it. And we are so grateful for everything that you are doing at Chorus. We are so grateful that you've invested your own time and energy and career into building this, and you're such an amazing example for people that want to do this. Like, just make the content, get out there, put yourself out there.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you guys for taking some time with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody, where can we follow you? I mean, I am
probably
pretty sure
already follows
does.
you, but where else? If you don't, where can we follow you?
Yeah, well, I'm on every platform, every single platform at the expense of all of my mental health. So you can find me on YouTube, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. But YouTube is my main platform, and it's just at Brian Tyler Cohen.
Oh, I didn't pull your Snapchat numbers. I forgot about that because I'm an old. But on Blue Sky, I want to just shout out that you are like closing in on 1 million followers on a platform that like is
New.
in its infancy. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, look, I learned the lesson that I didn't learn with TikTok, and that is to invest in these platforms early, because you never know which ones are going to really take off.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there looking at TikTok and being like, well, we've got the platforms that we need. I think I was on, as I mentioned at the top of the interview, I was on Facebook at the time. And so if you're on Facebook, like what else could possibly come up that's going to upend Facebook? And like cut to, Facebook is obviously shrinking, and TikTok is much bigger than Facebook at this point. So if you see, for anybody who's out there, if you see these new platforms pop up, it can't hurt by just investing some
Yeah.
time and energy into
I
them.
also don't think I pulled your Facebook follow. You really forget about Facebook.
Yeah, maybe
And then you
MySpace.
probably
We'll
have
go
a
back
lot
and
on
pull
that.
your MySpace
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah. We'll get them all. There should be an aggregator. Well, thank you
Yeah,
so much,
thanks,
Brian.
Brian.
We really, really appreciate your time and are excited for the next time our paths will cross.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for what you guys are doing.
Thanks. That was crazy.
That was so fun.
We were kind of freaking out right after we clipped.
Yeah, I was nervous,
Me too.
but
And we've got some stuff cooking too. We've
Yeah,
got
we're
some things in the pot.
mixing the pot,
We're mixing
stirring
the
the
pot
pot.
with Brian, with Chorus, with Good Influence that Brian is a part of. We but also like the popcorn has to pop in the right way.
yeah,
this
I'm
week
a
could be
very
big.
like superstitious person, and I
Yeah.
like don't like to speak things.
Oh, I'm like the opposite. I
Into
like to speak it into existence, but I won't
That's why
because
we're
we-
such a good
because
pair.
we have contracts. It is.
We're legally not bound to say anything yet. So, guys, we're going to be
All right.
annoying and we're going to be like, we have some really exciting things coming up, and we'll let you know once they're here. Anyways,
that for us.
Liz, how many miles are you running today?
How many miles are you running? No miles. Just in the White House. The fucking bitch didn't even run. We have to talk about this. The biggest thing to hit influencer politics was Caroline Levitt was on this running influencer. If you don't know, she's Kate Max. How many followers does she have?
She had like close to 800,000 followers before on TikTok prior to the interview, but she's lost a lot of followers.
Oh, good. I actually thought she had more than that. I
Oh,
thought
maybe she did. Maybe at the time I saw it. But I actually, when I saw the video, I was sitting on the couch with my boyfriend and we were watching TV, and I just audibly was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So this influencer, Kate Max, she's a running influencer, and she like pretends to like run up to people. She did it with Tim Walls, and she pretends to like run into them and be like, "Hey, how many miles are you running?" And then they run and they do an interview while they're running. But so she did one with Caroline Levitt, but they didn't even run.
No, they just strolled through the White House.
KK Caroline was on just full display. We are doing a comedy show in a couple of weeks, and we have a Caroline Levitt impersonator.
She's my favorite content creator.
She makes the crosses that Caroline wears, and every week she makes them out of something bigger and bigger. So around the egg
She
hunt,
did a lightsaber one today.
around the egg hunt, she did 2 like full dozen egg cartons, like 20. She was wearing 24 eggs on her as a cross. She is amazing.
Her name is Lysandra Vasquez.
Yes, so I can't wait to see what she does with this. Like, I mean, served on a platter, and I hope she does some of it in the comedy show. June 11th, mark your calendar.
Yeah, and we have a lot of other really awesome liberal leftist content creators that are also
Yeah.
stand-up comedians. So it's going to be so fun in Chicago, but we're going to be touring across the country with this.
Yeah,
Well, hopefully. But everyone send good vibes to us.
Yeah.
But anyways, for this Kate Max interview,
Yes.
it makes me so upset to see like KK Caroline and all of those MAGA freaks on the White House, because it's just so gorgeous. Like as she's
know,
walking
it makes
around,
me
it's so
mad.
beautiful and it's so stately, and like
I
they're
hate
just
that they're there.
soiling it.
Oh my God, it was the same. I'm big into Kai Trump TikTok. And when the family was there, and we had just been there for the Christmas party. And so like I felt like I had those memories of walking through it. And then I would just saw their family in there, and I was like, ugh, get out of there. It makes me so viscerally angry. But I will say that this whole KK Caroline non-running video spawned first a lot of running creators, including Hope Walls, to talk about how angry they were with Kate Max and how running is a privilege and how running is political. It's the air you breathe. It's the ability to run in a safe place, to have time, to have health care, all of these things that make this sport extremely political. And they were very
Everything
mad at
is
her.
political.
Everything is political. And so then what happened was something, and I would like to say that we had a hand in this a bit. We have really been investing in encouraging lifestyle creators to talk more and more about politics on their platforms and helping them figure out ways to do that authentically and to still be brand safe. And something happened this week where it has just blown up. So it started with Bran Flakes.
We love him.
We have a graphic. He has been very political. Please watch his reel. This is where he goes and he talks about going to the pharmacy for PrEP and the pharmacist saying, you know, I have to give you your instructions because the CDC is taking these off the website. And also, by the way, I don't know if PrEP's even going to be available. And he was like, this keeps me from dying of something that 42 million people have died from. Like, if you think that me talking about this, like I share my life on here, this is my fucking life. Like this keeps me from dying of a deadly illness that has killed millions of people around the world. And we, by the way, have something that can now keep you safe and prevent, like, and you don't want me to talk about this because you don't want me to get political. Hey, fuck you. And I think that resonated with a lot of content creators. Then we saw Eli Rallo be like, listen, your eyeballs make me money. You have every right to know what I'm doing with that money and if what I'm spending it on aligns with your values.
Or giving to donating to different causes that align with their values. As consumers, we have the right to understand the values, the ethos of the companies in which we purchase clothes. Look at Patagonia, right? Like Patagonia is so popular because they believe in upcycling and like and so people that believe in upcycling will spend their money at Patagonia. It's the same It's the same thing.
Insight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This influencer, she posted, we are in the new era of influencer marketing. There's no hiding where you stand. And then we saw people like Maya and Hunter, Brielle, Hallie, Kate. These are all people who have millions of followers come out and say, like, you need to say where your political beliefs are. This is the time. There's no more staying quiet. Hallie Kate showed her baby pics of her like holding an Obama sign, which made me feel 100 years old. I was like, oh, because she's literally a child. She's a big New York City influencer. I love her.
Another thing that's been like popping off on TikTok is people dancing to like country girl like songs and being like, this, but in a liberal way. And I also love that.
Yeah.
I think it's because Stagecoach like was just happening.
Yeah.
But like it's so frustrating because we talk about this. Like it feels like they've taken the American flag from us. Feels like they've taken patriotism from us and also country music. But like just to see all these people listening to country music and being like, we love country music and we're liberals, like was just lovely.
So we really want to do through Connect Forward a campaign that like counter programs their 4th of July. Like it is our 4th of July. If you'd like to participate in that as content creator, get in touch, or as
DM
a
us.
donor and you want to help pay content creators to do that,
DM us.
you can go to connectforwardusa.org and click donate. And we want to just like flood the zone with all of that like that, but in a liberal way. We have started taking back that Kenny Chesney song that's like, we'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Like, we'll put a boot in their ass. They are taking this country. We are taking back America, and we are going to do it through influencers. And to do that, this isn't a secret. Like, I feel like whenever we talk about like paying influencers or doing campaigns, people are like, oh, like, what do you think brands do? Like, they sit there, they strategize on something, and then they go pay for it. Like, so that's what we're going to do. We are going to do the anti-Trump, because he's going to do this whole thing for the 250th anniversary. It's going to start with the military parade for his birthday.
So scary.
And we just need to like, his whole thing is just to like dominate the airwaves, to have these big sky moments, to be the only thing that people are covering. So give them something else to cover, which is that every time you open TikTok, it's people barbecuing, wearing their American flag stuff, listening to country music, doing something overtly American or patriotic, but in a liberal way.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for that. I love summer. And like we're in Chicago, obviously, and it's been like we've gotten like one nice day and then like 5 cold days.
Yeah.
One nice day and then 5 cold days. But it's like you can smell it.
Yeah.
Like summer barbecues,
Yes, it usually-
wine on the patio, like
It
Aperol
usually
spritz.
kicks off with my birthday. Like once my birthday hits, then it usually stays warm. And my birthday's very soon. I'm gonna have backyard barbecue. You should come.
I'm really glad that I'm invited. I'd be upset if I wasn't, honestly.
For sure invited. But I feel like it needs to be like, I want it to be kind of like cocktail party meets barbecue. I need to like take an edible and do some party planning, brainstorming. This is what I used to do, was
Party planning?
Yeah, it was better for my mental health.
I have an idea for a party that we should throw, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, stay tuned. We're so cryptic today.
Sorry, not to be annoying.
Maybe we should throw a 4th of July party with all the money we have. Like for creators. We're speaking that into existence.
Yeah, if you have a big bank account.
It would be great to have like a brand sponsor it, like a liberal brand.
Like Costco?
Yes. Oh my God.
Hey, if there's any Costco representatives listening to this, please.
I would
Reach
the
out.
shit out of Costco hot dogs, by the way.
So
Hashtag
good.
not sponsored are the best thing ever. I actually have to like, I know that we all need to go to Costco, shop at Costco and not Target, but like I have a problem when I go to Costco, which is that I spend like $1,000 every time I go.
Nate and I just got a Costco membership.
It's dangerous.
It was-
because you're like, you know what? These planters are 2 for $50.
And their wine selection is fabulous.
Yes, they have a very good wine selection. And then I just like find things I need, like an electric toothbrush. And then I'm like, now that I have like the space for it, now that we don't live in an apartment, like, oh man, when we moved into our house, my Costco habit got really bad.
I love it.
Because you like have the space to store it and a freezer and yeah, but it'd be so great if we could have like a Costco sponsored. And maybe with another brand too to like make it a little more.
Who else? Like Costco and
Who's like Can Tonics.
oh yeah.
I'm desperate to have them.
You're like, I just want to get high right now.
I just want to get high and eat a hot dog and save democracy. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Honestly,
I'm a simple girl.
That's the vibes for the week.
I like that one.
But yeah.
I always like when we make our producers laugh.
I know, me too. It's the best to hear them giggle over there.
So, guys, what a week. We would love if this is your first time listening to this podcast, if you could like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think of our Costco idea.
Yeah, also if there's anyone that you think we should interview, because we just had like such a good interview, and
I know.
now we're excited to we have a bunch of really good interviews lined up.
We do.
But I think that we'd love to like get your guys' input.
Yeah.
And
we have Shannon
feedback.
Watts coming up to
Yeah.
launch her book, which is huge.
Really
Very
big. That'll
exciting.
be our next episode. But yeah, no, this was a really good time. Thanks to our producers here at Good News
Good
Chicago.
News Chicago.
And we will catch you guys next time.